You're a professional fighter now, but you have been a competitive athlete for almost your entire life, right?
Yeah, so from age 6 years to, I think I was 18, 19 when I actually stopped, but I ran track all my life. So my events were 100, 200 and triple jump. And so, from 6 years old to my late teens, I trained and came up through the age groups and the ranks, and the local and then national, then got to an international level as a junior coming through in those events. Got an amazing chance to develop as a person and train with some amazing people who are also in their own right today, very successful, and some amazing coaches. So that was my base growing up, and it kept me in line for the most part, in hindsight, coming through those years as you start to develop as a teenager. Yeah,
right. So looking back on it, was it, I guess, tough at the time, but you look back and you're like, well, thank goodness I had that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I had like a childhood like a lot of my friends at school, and friends I grew up with, and even family I grew up with, cousins and things like that. But in hindsight, it embedded a lot of really good traits and qualities, and always in hindsight you see, or you become grateful for those things at the time, even though you wanted to go to those sleepovers with your friends that you couldn't, or birthdays or occasions like that, or be able to go play, but you're not home till 9 o'clock at night, because you go from school straight to training and things like that. So that was my lifestyle and was normal for me growing up. And so those disciplines and having that growing up definitely translated into other areas as in life, such as when I became a fighter. Those things translated, and so that level of discipline and intensity and knowing to a point what it requires was not an easy transition, but I was prepared, I think, a lot more than people that just start
than your average
from
person.
Scratch. Yeah. So I think it all kind of tied in.
Was that something that you always wanted to do, like becoming an athlete?
Well, I think it just my mum just put me into something to keep active, and she was a young mum at the time, and you put your children into things and see what they kind of gravitate towards, and what they enjoy, and just to learn different skills and be around different kids and things like that, or whatever the reasons are, and I loved running at the time. I was really quick. I was like this. I was always tall. Like I've always been a tall girl. And I was this tall, lanky kid that could just run really fast and just loved it. And then it like stuck through it all throughout the years. From 6 years to, I think my last race was I was 18, 19.
True.
Yeah. So it was a big part of my upbringing and my life for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And that didn't end through your choice. That ended because of an injury? Yeah,
that was the start of it. I suffered a grade 2 hamstring tear on my left leg during a competition. I think it was like an Auckland Championships, and I was running in the open women's division. I was 16 at the time, but I was always running up into the senior women's division, and for extra competition. And we had a lot of great seniors at the time, all kind of gunning for the Commonwealth and things like that. So I tore my hamstring in a 100-metre race, and it was my first real major injury that put me out for the following season. And I think more than anything, I rehabbed and I came back the next season, but I just wasn't quite the same. And it just, I think, if anything, mentally and emotionally rocked me, and I didn't know how to cope with that or how to deal with it. I was such an achiever and had girls that I was beating quite easily throughout the ranks and throughout the years either were beating me or were at level, and I just didn't know how to deal with that emotionally.
Oh, that would have been hard,
mentally.
yeah.
And you're young and you don't know, this is all you know, and this is kind of the path that you're forming into, and things like that. So I didn't know anything else. I was school and track. At the time.
It's all
so
just gone.
And where you think you're going, and is going toward that. I had already represented New Zealand as a junior at that time, but I was going to the senior ranks and heading towards Commonwealth and Olympics and things like that.
The path was like you could see it.
And that's what I thought, and where it was heading, and just that really rocked me, and I didn't have the tools emotionally and mentally to be able to deal with that. And I feel like these days now, it's a lot of that stuff is a lot more accessible and talked about and shared. So I think that's a great thing, because at the time I just didn't know what I didn't know, and so it was just like, I gave up. Eventually. And that was tough. It was a lot of learning, but again, in hindsight, it teaches you a lot of things and grow from it. Yeah.
And so how long did it take you from that moment where you decided to give up to when you found your new path or your new passion? How long was that before you found that?
So after that, I started working for a media company and marketing and advertising. I was really fortunate enough, fresh out of high school. I was going to work for Fairfax at the time, and I didn't know anything about the corporate world. My mum at the time she ran a publishing company, so that was kind of her domain. I just always see her, as a kid, just stressed and working so hard and things like that. I was just like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to do that. I want to, be an athlete and all my life.
Be glamorous, because those are the glamorous, those track events you're into. Those are the glamour events.
Yeah, you're around with your mates and you're training every day and things like that. And so as a kid, it's fun. But then, so I started getting into that, and I was really green. And on that level, just had no real clue. But again, it was such a great teacher and a great learner for everything. Taught me how to handle myself and deal with that world.
I guess like not the real world, but the regular people world or whatever.
And full-blown adults. And I was just like this green, really good athlete, from high school, and not sure, and all of a sudden I was working for one of the biggest media companies in New Zealand at the time, learning magazines and online and things like that. I'm like, I don't even read the paper.
This is my world.
But man, I toughed it out, and that was really cool. And anyway, I. Then a couple of years later, or a year and a bit later, I moved over to Sydney, Australia. And then I signed up to a local gym there. A local rowing coach was in there. I'd see him every day. Hey, chit-chat. And so he's like, hey, I see you training. You look like a really strong, fit girl. What, have you ever rowed before? And I was like, no. And he was like, why don't you come down? Are you interested in coming down? I was like, sure. And I was like, what does it entail? He's like, I'll put you through a few tests. And anyway, long story short, we went down to his club, a couple of days later, whatever it was, and all these girls were in there, and they were like these strong, and they were looking at me like, who's this? And then they put me through some tests and jumped on the row machine, and if you got a few numbers on the weights and things like that, just so they could see me. And I didn't know what they were expecting or if I was doing well and whatnot. And then they asked me to row, and I'd never been out on the water, not in a boat like that. And they're like, do you know how to swim? And I said yes, but I didn't. I was just like, yeah, sure, cool. And it was the funniest thing. And so because we flipped a few times. It's just part of the training and what happens. Right. And then they found out then that I was holding on to the boat, like, fuck. But I could, and then through a lot of hard work and some great coaches and teammates, I learned how to row my butt off. And so I got into surfboat rowing in Australia, which is a big part of the culture there. And a lot of beaches and that sort of lifestyle, so that's really big, the surfboat. And then I eventually got into stillwater rowing in the wintertime. So that all kind of happened and took off, and that's a really hard sport to like endurance-wise, power-wise, and just the way that they train. It's a beautiful sport, and technically, and you're out on the water, and things have your technique and things like that, and all that's required has to be really perfect. Yeah. It's an international sport, it's an Olympic sport, but not many people can really make something out of it. But it's quite a big culture, so you've got to really be really, really, really good. And so, but I just enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the challenge, and I was getting better, and like throughout the seasons, and we toured all over Australia with the competitions and things like that, and it was just such a cool culture and cool lifestyle. Again, something that I never grew up doing. I wasn't any sort of swimmer or water baby or surfer or nothing like that, and then I was just thrust amongst all these people in that kind of world. And so it was really cool. It was really cool, and it was a lot to and I got quite serious about it. Would have time trials a lot, like 2K tests, 5K tests on the rowing machine, just tracking your timing and fitness and things like that. And I kind of I started to get a bulging disc in my back, and I didn't know what I just was like, I'm in a bit of pain, and so that was, and then got it checked out, and that's what was kind of happening. So I had to take some time off. I was forced to, otherwise they said, you're gonna slip your disc, you gotta start. So I couldn't lift and things like that, and all the training that was involved, and it was just like, I was gutted. It was everything.
Like once again.
Once again, and it wasn't serious, but it was gonna be, and it was giving me enough pain to a point where I'd have to I'd be on the ground for a period of time after trainings, and I'm like, what's wrong? I didn't get it. So that was forced, and just focused on working. I started to coach fitness and CrossFit, and that's when that whole thing was kind of taking off, on our side of the world, and to what it is compared to what it is today. So that was really cool, and I was doing that, and then long story short, that after that got into fighting. Just
found another thing to do.
It was something that actually it was upon a girls trip. A friend of mine, a girlfriend of mine, and I planned this trip. First time I'd been overseas, to Asia anyway, without my boyfriend at the time. So it was like this. Like
lads,
kind of trip. And then we booked, and that's how I found initially Muay Thai fighting, and that's the national sport of Thailand, obviously. And it was just like cool. This felt like a bit of fitness,
just like a holiday fun thing to do.
And really loved it, really enjoyed it. I did not know what I was doing at the time. I thought I was probably killing it, but I probably, looking back on those videos, I'm like, I hope those never surface. Terrible. And then formed a really, just loved the learning, and I think that was just part of my character, and just loved challenges and loved being physical and loved the mental and side of it as well, more so, and it was just another thing that opened up my mind to that attracted me to it, I think. Yeah.
And how do you transition from something that you're just enjoying doing? How do you go from that to, okay, now I'm a professional fighter?
Yeah.
Now this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, well, I think as I started training and things like that, and then what I think it initially was I formed a really great bond and relationship with those around me and those teachers that were and my coaches at the time. And I think that's how people really do get inspired, is by great teachers, and that's initially how it sparked, and just having fun. I was learning. I was, so I was just like, man, this is the coolest thing out. You're so, those endorphins are running high after
fulfilling all the things.
Yeah, and I think that's just how it started. And I stuck with my same trainer that I met in Thailand for a year. After that, and
did you move to Thailand?
Yeah. So initially on that holiday, it was like I think 4 or 5 week holiday that my friend and I went over to, and to Phuket, Thailand. And then during that time, we were training, we were doing the fitness thing, getting in shape, so getting a groove back, and then the particular place where we were training in the camp that we were at, a lot of foreigners were there, and expats that had moved over to Phuket, and I had made friends with the owners of the camp at the time, and just they meet everyone coming through and got chatting, and what do you do? And I was like, I work in marketing and things like that. We're looking for someone on that side of our team. Yeah. So we got talking and we got chatting, and then I returned. I was living in Sydney at the time. Returned back to Sydney after that trip. Looking good, feeling good, jacked and tanned, and everyone's like, "Where have you been? Oh my God, you're amazing."
Look at your muscles.
Yeah. Oh wow, and she's like boxing and stuff now, and killing it, whatever. And then kept in touch, made those connections, like I said, and then it became, they put an offer to me to be there, and be able to. Help with my living expenses and things like that, do a bit of work on the side, and be able to train and do this new thing that I was like immersed in and loved. And I met so many cool people over there, just different cultures, different people from all sides of the world, and nothing really tying me down, but I had a really good gig in Sydney, and on paper I think I was 20, 21, 22, I was living in the eastern suburbs, which is a very, quite an affluent area, and, had a good little setup there from those last few years. But I wasn't happy. Like, I just was working to work, and it's that, work hard, play hard lifestyle, which was cool at the time, but it was just like, you just didn't have time for yourself. And I was just like, and I could see myself becoming like my mum, like in terms of, she was just a workaholic, and she was just, she was always so busy and so frantic and so stressed, and it was just in that regard, like, and I just remember just like, man, like I'm surely this, life's not this stressful. Yeah. But obviously also on the other hand, I didn't have all the responsibilities or realize all the responsibilities that parents have, holding down the rest of your family, a house, cars, your children, their expenses, their things. So it was just like, it was me not realizing all of that. But then I was like, okay, what should I do? This offer's been put to me, and it's so appealing, and it's just like, it was the happiest thing ever, like, to me at the time, the coolest thing ever. And I was just like, but then I'm going to let go of some good money and a good stable base and this and that, and then I chose to go over to Thailand, and that's how it happened. And then developed my passion and love for the sport more, and because I was able to train whenever I wanted, and be around all these other all these professional fighters and things. At this point I hadn't fought, or it wasn't kind of on your radar. I was kind of really just enjoying the training and learning, and like I said, the people I was around and whatnot. A year later, after a bit of training and again developing some skills and whatnot, I got asked to fight by my trainer on 3 days' notice, and I was like, what? What? You think I can? And the Thais are like, yeah, sure. And they're saying it to anyone. Yeah. But I thought he was like thinking I was something special, and like I had it. But he just convinced me to say yes. And because at that time there was a foreign girl over there that needed the same way. Yeah, that's how my first fight happened. Like 3 days' notice, and oh my goodness, I'll never forget it. I remember I won the fight, and I remember coming out, and I said to my friends are all in the corner and whatnot, and I came out and I said, I'm never doing that again. I'm never doing that again. I'd done it. I ticked it off cool, and I just
because it was terrifying.
It was terrifying. Yeah. The anxiety of before the fight, the nerves, the uncertainty, the unknown. Just oh my goodness, it was a totally different feeling to what I've experienced before. So I just was like, cool, done it. Done. Yeah. So that was it. And then took another fight. But then each fight I kind of you develop this confidence, and then you go to this, each time you get this little bit of you go another level up in terms of just being more comfortable in there, win or lose. But so that's, I think it just then after that, like I caught the bug.
And how did you transition then? Did you from Muay Thai to MMA?
Well, I was at a gym in Thailand, and they were, at the time, they were building an MMA team, and they had a Muay Thai team, but so I initially got sponsorship or scholarship, if you will, whatever, to be on that Muay Thai team. And this was a few years later. And they were developing their MMA team, and they kept approaching me. Would you be interested in MMA? Would you be interested in MMA? We're going to, or just developing, into that style. And at the time I was like, no, not at all. I didn't understand it or appreciate it enough. I was enamored with Muay Thai and being this purist and whatnot, and go and tell the local stadiums over there. And then what had happened was I had a few Muay Thai fights lined up at the time that year, and I think it was something like I had 3 pullouts back to back. I was dieting, cutting weight, getting ready for them, and right at the last minute, and then the third one, and it was just so disheartening, and I was missing out on money, and I was at that time just hanging, had nothing to my name, and relying on all those things, putting myself through all the training, all the running and everything that's involved, and dieting, cutting weight, looking all shredded and sunken in, and then to be told that sort of news that it just pisses you off. And then a friend of mine who would another fighter who was coming over to Thailand offered me a MMA fight on, I think it was at the time it was 6 weeks notice, through a friend's promotion he had. I was so desperate to fight at that point because I had, so many pullouts at that stage that I just said yes. Yeah. Not really fully knowing what I was getting myself into. I feel like that's been the theme of my whole
just say yes
life. Yeah, just say yes.
Figure it out later.
I like that.
It's, and somehow at some point it's worked out, but I've had to learn a lot of the hard way. And so I said yes because at the time, I needed the money, like I said. I was out in Thailand, frustrated with all these Muay Thai fights being proposed and promised, and then pulling out. And at that stage I was still very young in the game, where I was just learning about that. So this is part of what happens. And so I said yes. But okay, you got to start coming to MMA practice. Blah blah blah. Cool. Yeah. All right. Rocker. And oh my goodness, it was just the most. Getting taken down, getting held down on the ground in a totally different realm, and the smaller gloves and this and that, like all these factors in MMA that differentiate the two between MMA and Muay Thai was just a real awakening. Like if anything, like I remember I was like, what the hell have I done? Like what have I signed up to? Like I'm not ready for this. Yeah. And so at the time anyway, my coaches did what they could, and it was actually really good. They kept me really grounded, and even when I get anxiety in the training, or I'd come off crying, in the corner, and are you all right? Yeah. Cool. And then they we did the 6-week crash course of like defensive wrestling and like getting up off the ground and scrambles and things like that, and it was cool. And so I had my first one. They flew me out. I was living in Thailand, and they flew me out to Australia. And had my first MMA fight there, and I won, thankfully. And man, and then
so they didn't try to take you down, or
no, we did. We ended up on the ground, and I just held her there. I was on top, so I was just like holding on, I think, for dear life until the ref stood us up, and then and then I won, and man, it was such a rush, and that was my opening. I was like, man, and it was a big teacher, like, cause in the 2 rounds that fight lasted, like it did go everywhere, and it just was like, that is a position that these scenarios that presented themselves to me firsthand, I need to get better at, like, and I never want to be succumb
vulnerable.
To like to that stuff, and then I remember I got hit with the small gloves, and it's just like being hit with a fist. When you're used to bigger gloves, which I was at that time, and I remember I was stunned on my feet, and I was like, holy heck, like it felt like a rock had like come through, and I managed to recover. And then I remember landing some, and I was like, man, this is a scary feeling, like
it's gone next level,
being hit like that and hitting someone else. It's like, and it sounds ugly, but when there's street fights, and if you've heard them, and when you hear like that, it's like meat slapping each other. It's like that, and that's what. And I just remember all of that, and I was just like, it scared me, and I was like, oh my god, like. But then it was really attractive to me at the same time.
Yeah.
And so that's what like kind of made me decide, like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna pursue MMA, and this is like, I really really like this, and it broadened my horizons definitely at the time, and just got me in there, got me enthralled with it all. Yeah.
It was the savagery of it almost.
Yeah,
really.
It was, and it's weird because I, in a normal setting, like at home watching a fight, even still today, I'm like, ooh, and then watching my friends is the worst, but then you go out there yourself, and it's just a different feeling, and sometimes I can't believe I do it, but then I can't. It's weird. It's this weird. Then it's like it's the best feeling. It's the best feeling because it's so exciting and enthralling. I'm very drawn to it, and I love it. I really love it. It's so weird, but then it's also very. It's very like. I get anxiety sometimes as well at the same time,
but
I
meant
think
to love it this
and just like, because the repercussions of it going not your way, but man, I think running towards it is what's attractive about it. Like, I think I think I love that feeling, to be honest, which is like crazy, or maybe I don't know what the psychology is behind that, but like, because it's the biggest thing, is one of the things that kind of scare you, but it also makes you feel the most alive is how I could probably describe it.
I guess it's like those that like adrenaline junkies, jumping off a building or something.
Yeah.
I guess this is
Exactly.
your
Yeah.
jumping off a building.
Yeah,
maybe.
because in some form for sure. Because I see people like that, and people are like, "Would you? No way, no way would I ever jump. Why? For what? It doesn't appeal to me. Would you? Yeah, do the bungee this and this? No, no.
But let me just go.
Let's go
Yeah,
there.
but then this must be
Get in
what's my
That's your one,
yeah. So it's like, and I always feel like, those programs where like good things go wrong or like good things go bad, like those roller coasters that fucking stop upside down. So I feel like if I ever tried to be extreme like that, like I'd be that story. So I'd just be like, I just but then getting in the cage or getting in the ring is like my adrenaline rush, I guess.
I read somewhere that you said over the years, you haven't worried so much, or you're not worried about your physical toughness. You've been through injuries, you've had your nose broken, you've had all of those things. But over the years, it was really working up that mental toughness.
Yeah, definitely. Just thinking in hindsight again, like and being a few years now doing this and traveling around the world and meeting different cultures and sides of the game, and through that knowing myself more. It comes down to knowing yourself and finding who that person is, and knowing, finding out what you're made of, and not even necessarily speaking inside the ring, because I've done some things in the ring that I know I'm capable of, but it's like the things that make you a fighter outside. Are you gonna stick this out when you've got no money? Are you gonna sit there for 12 hours and cut weight just to make it? And you're emancipated carcass of yourself. Are you gonna come back when you've just been when you've just lost in front of all your family and friends and had your this thing that you're supposed to be good at and that you put all your time and effort into, and then you lose in front of them? And then are you going to come back to the gym after that? Are you going to come back and take another fight after that? All these things that test your character, test your ego, test your will, and you as a person. And so it's finding those things out. And I think, and it comes in, it comes when it comes. Like you'll different things will test you, and you'll figure those sides of yourself out as obviously, just like in life, as you go along. But that's what makes you a fighter, and what you can take into there and know that you can handle yourself or certain scenarios, or know what you're made of, or things that do happen, tested to the nth degree, or had tough fights, or had to come back from tough situations in there, when you're down, or when you've had broken your nose and you can't breathe throughout your nose. And so do you keep going or do you opt out? You can make some choices in those moments, and it's those moments that really teach you about yourself and what you're capable of and what you can withstand, and whether you're a quitter or whether you're a champ and you keep going regardless. Those things will show you who you are, and that's what I feel like back to your question of building that mental toughness and confidence and things like that, that's all tied into just knowing yourself and running towards fear and breaking through those barriers. You got a choice, and so I've made those choices in the past, not in fighting so much, but in track, and right where I chose to give up, and those when I could have probably pushed on, but I just didn't know how to handle myself at the time, or whatever the case was. But it was, and those moments burnt me, and I felt for a long, long, long time. And so it was just like, I never want to feel like that again. Never want to feel like that again. Even if I fall on my face, at least, like, I'm going to go out on my shield. And, like, that's tough to make that decision, especially in those moments where it's, like, presented to you. But because I think of those times where I have been tested and opted out, I've promised myself that I would never do that again, no matter what, you know, because I know how hard that is of a pill to swallow and to live with. When you know, it's like you know, other people might not know, but you do know, and so I think those things have helped develop me to the fighter that I'm becoming today or now. So
I never really thought about it until you mentioned the family and friends and them being like, aren't you meant to be good at this?
Isn't this where you are every day?
Yeah, like losing and having to be like, nah, honestly, I'm good. Like, honest.
You should see me. Like, or just like you don't get the result that you're supposed to, or that, and it's just like, those things are hard. Those things will test you. On the flip side of it, your family or friends or helping you towards these goals, these real selfish goals, and this dream that you believe in. They're making sacrifices for you as well, and then certain things don't go your way, or you like that's hard. So what are you gonna do? Pack it all in, or all right, not go back? And I've definitely been tested a few times in that way, and it's just like those things come, but I feel like it's because you're doing it right. You're all in, you're all in. You gotta be in this sport. Gotta be all in. Like, it's not that kind of, it's not that kind of sport or lifestyle to where you can half-ass. And in all areas, not just training and the physicality. Like, it's you've got to go without sometimes. It's kind of part and parcel.
So what are your goals this year? What are you working towards? Your next fight, or what's coming up for you?
So I've just re-signed with the PFL again for my second season. So that kicks off in May, and that season runs from May till New Year's Eve. So every 2 months we'll be fighting. Really, really great organisation. I had a really, in terms of the dealings and the promotion itself, I had a really great experience with them last year in 2019, my first year with them, and what they're doing and how they're trying to differentiate their structure and their format compared to the other promotions.
Because it's a playoff type
style,
thing.
and so how they're basing it off is similar to the NFL format, because that's the biggest sport in America, American football, and so they've the investors and the owners, and Ray Sefo, who's Samoan Kiwi, based over there, and who's the promoter, have structured it like that NFL format where you have a regular season and you fight your way and win your way to the playoffs, which like I said, happened from May all the way through to the finals, New Year's Eve. So I think that's really cool, and then at the end of that it's a $1 million prize, and it's really cool. It's really legit, and it's really like everyone's got it paid, and you get paid pretty well, pretty decent, all throughout the year. And they've signed to ESPN along with the UFC, so they've got that backing, and they're only in their third season in now, so it's really exciting, and it's I think it's great for the sport that we have these other promotions that can rival, the top dog UFC, and give these fighters other avenues. So yeah, I think they're doing a great job, and their staff and their production and everything like that were awesome to work with. So I've got nothing but great things to say on that side about them, and so I'm really excited to kick off. I had a good. They really enjoyed me, and like me, I had got into a bit of a war my first fight, which people were like, man, that was such a cool fight, and I wasn't really too happy with it because I got hit more than I would have liked, and meaning like, I know I'm going to get hit. You go in there with that expectation, and you can't ever think you're not, but I didn't, some certain technicalities I didn't quite follow to in my favor, so I made it more of a war than it needed to be, and I come off with a bit of a broken nose, and it's part of it, but it could have been
just
avoided.
Just a bit of a broken nose.
A real broken nose that really hurt and really was annoying for the next month after, but
because then you're trying to turn it around in 2 months for your next fight, right?
And I couldn't do full contact or sparring for the first 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and I was wearing this face mask every day, and then on social media, pretending everything's honky dory, like, no, I'm not injured, yeah, I'm all good, and I couldn't spar and things like that. Obviously, I was training other avenues and parts of my game, but it just we had to tailor it because I couldn't take any contact, and then sparring's such a big part of our training and our camps, and it's just like, oh man, like all these things were going through my head. What if I forget how to
throw a punch?
Yeah, all this ridiculous stuff, and then and then you just got to the point where it's like, oh well, it's gonna be what it's gonna be, and you know what to do. Like the work's done, and you're good, and then just had to turn that switch, which just like, okay, like you're gonna be good.
Yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And then I had that second fight, and that went well in my favor. And then I made it to the semi-finals, and which I was supposed to fight Kayla Harrison, a judo girl. And she's kind of she's the face of the promotion, in our division. And just suffered really badly with some weight cut issues, unfortunately, a few hours before. So, worked my butt off all year. And
it was going to be the first time you'd fight in Vegas too, right?
Yeah, it was my first time fighting in Vegas and all that. And so, and that's where they do the semi-final playoffs. And so that was just everything I was working towards. And so I was gutted. But I let myself feel it straight away, and I just took some time out and just didn't answer to anyone, which I would always feel the need to at different, just at different times. But I was just like, nah, just be with yourself and just get yourself whatever you need to do. For me, like I put myself first in that situation after, which is like which is hard for me to do sometimes. And then I think that helped me just kind of move on a bit quicker.
Just sitting with it.
Yeah, just sitting with it and dealing with it at the time. What I'd usually do is come back into the gym, come back into training, get back on, kind of get back around and things like that. But I just took some time by myself. I needed to because it was like my whole existence that whole year, and I was going through, you just have your moments in camp and things like that, and everything was based around that, and anything that came up in life or outside life, I just put to the back of my head, and so then that happened where I didn't make it to the dance, and so I was just like, whoops, sorry,
No, you
you
can
can
swear. You can do whatever you want.
yeah. So that was it. It was just like, I was gutted, and then, like I said, I let myself kind of just take it in and deal with it how I wanted to, or how I felt I needed to at that time, and it took me. It might have taken a few weeks or whatever. But I was okay with that. I was like, oh, this is what I need. And I'll get back in there. It wasn't like I was feeling any type of way like, I need some extended time off. No, I just needed a bit of time to myself. And then I knew I'd make my way back in and just get back on the horse.
With the PFL league, is it light heavyweight that you're fighting?
Yeah, well, it's a new division in terms of on the mainstream level. PFL, the first promotion to open up this division. So lightweight, women's lightweight, which is 70 kgs.
Shit. I'm just thinking of how much I weigh. I'm like, fuck, I'm heavyweight.
I'm heavyweight too right now. So that's right. They've taken a chance in broadening. Not only people are like women's MMA, and then people joke about it or whatever. But man, it's a win and a growth for the sport in general, because it brings more eyes. It only can bring positive things for the entire sport. There are some legitimate lightweights out there that are really skilled. You've got Kayla Harrison, and she, like I mentioned before, she's the face of the promotion, and she's she's a two-time Olympic gold medalist in judo. Wow. So she brings that, and she trains at a top gym over in America, and she's been, broadening her game and putting it all together. You've got me, who's a world champion Muay Thai fighter, stand up, and again, putting together all the other aspects of my game over these years and putting it all together. We're legitimate lightweights. I've got, many other girls, Bobby Joe, the girl that I fought, Larissa Pacheco, and then you've got some girls that are lighter weights that fight at the 145 or 66 kg division that don't want to cut weight and that sit a bit heavier, and they don't have to cut as much weight to get to lightweight. So it's just a matter of going out there and putting on to give it that get the eyes on this division and to really solidify it first and foremost, and then to grow it. And I think with the like I mentioned, with what the PFL have done with this format and this $1 million thing, it's gotten a lot of...
There'll be people coming in now,
there's been a lot of attraction to it, and so there's a lot more girls coming through. Yeah, looking forward to it. Yeah. Awesome. $1 million, millionaire by the end of 2020 is
that's the goal.
Yeah.
It's a nice
Get
goal.
that milli.
Yeah. Man, I'm home and I'm in the right place to do it. Fortunate enough to come back home over Christmas and be back with my team here, and Huge and Doug and the boys, and and my family and friends here, and just settling back here has been just what I needed, and still settling in, still kind of just getting my feet on the ground here, because I've been away a long time.
Yeah.
And so it's what I need. It's what I needed. Yeah.